Okay, back for hopefully not a very long video on my 1872 open top revolvers. There was a fellow by the name of Harvey. Harvey was the gunsmith for Cimarron Arms down in Fredericksburg, Texas. This is back when I used to travel quite a bit and I was pretty active in the cowboy action shooting. I was shooting oh my gosh, that's another great story. I was shooting a match in Chico, Texas, which I think was right below Oklahoma state line. And Harvey had these pistols out there. They were prototypes. They were not up for sale yet. Were not in the catalog. They had quite a few come from Italy. Back then, what Cimarron would do and put them a step above, in my mind, everybody else, is that they would import pistols from Italy and Cimarron pistols. And, well, actually, that was Cimarron. The name of the company is Cimarron. But in Texas. Anyway, Cimarron would import these Italian pistols. They were Uberti pistols. And that's all they dealt with, I believe, was Uberti. Well, what they would do is they'd bring the pistols in, and then Cimarron had like specified gunsmiths around the Texas area, and then they would immediately take these pistols, is my understanding, and send them to their gunsmiths. Their gunsmiths would put their hands on them, tune these things up, make sure everything was right, send them back to Cimarron, then Cimarron will put them up for sale. And so, and it's always been my experience when I get a Cimarron pistol, it's just that little bit of above the Piettas or the whatevers. I'm a Cimarron guy. You're not going to change my mind more than likely. Anyway, Harvey had these two. They were in 44 Colt, I believe, and they were 1872 open top pistols, which I had never heard of before in my life. Basically, it was a transitional pistol between like the 1861 Colt Army, which all the old cap and ball pistols were open frame. You could just pull them right apart. They did not have a top strap on them. Well, the 1872 is the same way. It's got a wedge pin right there. You pull that pin out and you just pull the barrel clear off, pull the cylinder off, and then you can clean it. So I did shoot a lot of black powder out of these guns, and because they're easy to clean. Oh my gosh, they're easy to clean. And these pistols, yeah, like he let me shoot his 44 Colts at this match, and I loved them. The way they I don't know, it's just they just pointed good. They felt good. And once again, 5.5-inch barrels. That's usually what I shoot in competition, and just for the balance and so forth. I told him I want a set, and he just like pulled out a little notepad. Heath McDonald, Hayseed, was Hayseed was my alias, my nickname all through cowboy action. And I get a call from him. He was like, "Hey, you got a set of these pistols that are ready to go. They're not in 44 Colt. They're in 45 Smith & Wesson Schofield, and they're 5.5-inch." And because I think the ones I shot that his were like 7.5-inch. I was like, "That's what I want. I want 45 Smith & Wesson Schofield because they don't come in 45 Colt, and I want 5.5-inch." He's like, "Well, give me your credit card number." So I don't remember what they cost. They weren't very. I want to say they were like $4.35 a piece or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't even know. And he sent them to my FFL to Tom Thomas. And so this is back in 95, 96. I bought these guns, I believe, something like that. 90, yeah, about there. And I get them in their consecutive serial number, X119, X120. And which is, consecutive serial number pair of guns, man, they're worth a fortune. When I used to shoot black powder out of these guns, and I shot classic cowboy with black powder, and I think there was a black powder cartridge class in cowboy action shooting, frontiersman maybe. I can't remember. I used to shoot that quite a bit too, and this is back when things were much simpler in cowboy action. But anyway, I had 2 different cleaners for black powder, and I used Windex to clean black powder with. It worked really well. On my brass, I used the purple Windex with vinegar, and I'd use that to clean my brass. And like an idiot, when I took one of my pistols apart, the ejector rod housing, I accidentally threw it in the Windex with vinegar. And vinegar and bluing on a gun are not friends. They are not copacetic at all. and I ate all of the bluing off of the ejector rod housing on this poor little guy. So I just I cold blued it a little bit, and it didn't take. And I don't know, it's mine. Don't plan on getting rid of it. Blah blah blah. Well, Julie gets a job transfer to Maine. That job transfer, what they were paying her, offset what I made as a deputy at the time, and basically covered my gross wages. So we moved to Maine. Back in the day, they used to have this Cowboy Chronicle when he was a member of the Single Action Shooting Society, when he did all the pew 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 for the cowboy shooting. And I looked in for the state of, it'd have at the very end, it listed every state and every cowboy club in that state and a contact. Well, the state of Maine, they had one cowboy club. It was in Augusta, and for most of them put like they shoot every third Saturday or something like that. It was when scheduled, and I took that to mean that, man, there ain't no cowboy shooting worth a hoot in Maine. I didn't realize how close I was going to be to New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is blowing up with cowboy shooting. So I figured, well, by the time I get up there, nobody's going to want these pistols because there's no cowboy shooters. So I need some of these pistols now. So back then you could get on the SAS Wire or whatever on the Cowboy Action interwebs, and you could sell guns back then. It was a different time. And so, of course, you still had to send them to a federal firearms licensee, and they had to fill out their background check or whatever, their state. So this buying guns on the internet, it doesn't exist. It's a falsehood. There was a guy in California, and his alias was Patriot, Pat Riot Patriot. And we worked out a deal, and I sold him these pistols. And they went, and actually I even gave him, I sent a few hundred rounds of ammunition with them too, I believe. And I think as much as 500 rounds of ammunition. All went to California. Well, then I get to Maine, and I find out that there's cowboy shooting everywhere. It just wasn't in the Chronicle, or I read it wrong or something. And I'm thinking, man, I love those pistols. I shot them so well, and I missed them. And I'm on the SAS Wire I'm on the computer up in Maine, and they always had the classifieds of all these pistols. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, there was a guy in Virginia. And this guy in Virginia, I'm fibbing. I didn't send them. I didn't sell those to Pat Riot. I sold them to a guy in California. There's a fellow by the name of Pat Riot that showed up in Virginia, and he has a pair of 1872 Colt open tops for sale. And I'm kind of reading through the comments, and people are, they're kicking the tires on them. And he made the comment that on one of the pistols, the ejector rod housing, the bluing was trash on it. I don't know what happened to it. Bluing's trash on it. I saw that, and I was like, those are my pistols. I don't know how, this guy, it showed his address as being in the state of Virginia. So I sent him a personal message. I said, by any chance are the serial numbers on those guns X119 and X120? It took him a few minutes. He responded, he's like, how'd you know that? I said, those are my pistols. I said, but I sold them to a guy in California. He's like, you sold them to my neighbor. I lived in California. I bought them off him, and then my job brought me all the way to Virginia. And I told him, I said, I want those pistols, right? And he's like, I'll tell you what. He said, those are your pistols, and apparently they're meant to be your pistols. And I will sell them to you for the exact same price he sold them to me, which is, I think I bought both guns for about $450. And so he sent them to me at the time I lived in Maine, so the guns came to Maine. And once again, man, I started pew, 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 and I was in love. And I won the Maine state championship with these guns. I won the Kentucky state championship with these guns. I won the Ohio state championship with these guns. If you actually use the sights, they will shoot about 18 inches high at 20 yards. Actually shorter than that, probably about 40 feet. And If you use the sights, they shoot horrible. But if you just point the damn things and squeeze the trigger, the bullet goes where you want it to go. And because back in the day, they used to calibrate pistols for like 100 yards for military. And so anyway, these guns, I bought them, I had them delivered to, I guess it was Tom's there in Chillicothe and, on 772. So they came to me in Ohio. I sold them to a guy in California. He sold them to his neighbor who trotted them all the way across the country, literally to the state of Virginia. He decided he wanted to sell them. At the time I lived in Maine, by the grace of God, this was one other thing that was put into my life. There's no other reason. And so then I bought them. They were shipped to Maine. And then I relocated back to Ohio, and here they are back in Ohio again. And I don't see any reason why they should leave me, to be quite honest. Those are my pistols. And so that's the story. I can't ramble too much. I don't make this thing too damn long. So, I don't know, kind of neat, I think. Toodaloo. See you on the range.